Pocket full of sunshine. I gotta wish it was all mine. Whoa, whoa. Take me away to a special place. Take me away. Welcome back to the channel, everybody. It is a different day, but the same night for me. We just got the injectors installed on the car, the Cobb 1050cc injectors. They were annoying to install, but we did it. We got them on. Now it's time to put the ETS intercooler on. So I've got the bumper off of the car, as you can see there, and it's just hanging out over there. So with the bumper off the car, we're gonna start running through the process of throwing this intercooler on. I've never put a front mount on before, but I've also never done injectors, so I feel like the injectors were a lot harder. So we're gonna get started. I'm gonna start taking off this front bumper beam down here to get the intercooler mocked up, and we're gonna start running through everything. Now that we've got the bumper off the car, we're gonna run through and we're gonna start pulling off the 8 12mm bolts that hold the bumper beam to the chassis of the car. So I'm gonna run through, I'm gonna do 2 on each side, then do the other 2 on each side, and then get this thing off the car and we'll start mocking up the intercooler. Psych! Ah! No more bumper beam. Before we even jump into doing the intercooler, I already know we're gonna need to move this horn here, so I'm gonna go ahead and take that guy off. Welcome to ground level. So we have our horn bracket here. There's a small sensor on the end of it down here, and the horn itself. So we have a lot more room with the sensor, so we're gonna move the sensor and the horn together. So we're gonna take them off of this bracket, which I got my handy dandy clip removal guy. So the horn, I'm not gonna use this. I'm gonna buy some Hello horns so that way I have a longer harness so I can route this up here, and I'm just gonna ditch this guy for now. The sensor, which I think is a security sensor, I'm gonna route behind the frame brace right here and plug it in right behind the, right there. And then we'll, ooh, can I get it under that? I have to lift up the radiator to do that. Next time we lift up the radiator, we'll push it up there. So for now, we're going to hide these guys down by the radiator, keep that sensor down there, and we just made ourselves some room for a front mount. All right, guys, so now we're ready to kind of mock up our intercooler. So this top bolt up here, right under the hood latch, we're gonna go ahead and take that out. I've already broken it loose, just so I can kind of speed up the process here a little bit. So you're gonna end up breaking that loose. I'm gonna put this through the top hole of the intercooler for now, as you can see right here on this welded flange. And we're going to hold this up and start to screw it in there. I actually might get my floor jack to help me hold this up. Actually, I am gonna get my floor jack to help me hold this up, so that way I'm not struggling by myself here. All right, so with the floor jack supporting this, I'm gonna go ahead and tighten down this top bolt. That's loosened. So we're gonna be, I'm gonna guess this 1-inch spacer, and it's gonna go right down here behind the intercooler and the flange. We're gonna run that bolt through. And tighten that guy down. So we have the 1-inch spacer on the back side of the front of this flange, and the bolt going through right here on the front side. So I'm gonna use the 1-inch spacer on the other side as well, so we can get that mocked up. All right, guys, that's it. Front mount intercooler's installed. Thanks for swinging by. Peace out. God, I wish it was that easy. So this thing is not going anywhere. So I need to get the jack out of my way. While we're down here, we still have the front mount on, or the front mount's on the car now. So I'm gonna throw some of these couplers, 1 on each side. Oh no! Get on! Are you too good for your home? We got 1 coupler, and I hate couplers. 2. All right, couplers are on. I'm gonna slide a T-bolt over these. I'm not gonna tighten them down, but I'm gonna slide a T-bolt on them so that way we don't forget that later. And we're gonna start running our piping. So we have the core put on the front of the car. I wanna start running some of the piping now. So we're gonna go ahead and throw the throttle body coupler on here and the turbo coupler. So we're gonna take the 90-degree bend and the reducer coupler and throw these on. The reducer coupler is going to go onto the throttle body. All right, throttle body coupler's on. Turbo coupler now. I just threw a little dab of oil on the inside of the smaller end, so that way I get it on the turbo a little bit easier. Hopefully that helps us out. Our coupler is on the turbo. Our other coupler is on the throttle body. All right, now that we've got our couplers started, we're gonna go ahead and start throwing some of this piping on. So the piece with the blow-off valve is gonna face like that, coming off. We're gonna finagle this underneath some things to try to get it to fit, because I'm not entirely sure how this is going on. So ETS sends hardware with their kit, but I think I like the OE hardware a little bit better. I think it's a little bit higher quality, and it's not an awkward like 13 millimeter. So I'm gonna run with this and use the OE hardware on this stuff. That's not bad. So we have, oh, I stepped on a socket. So we have our first piece of piping in. I'm gonna throw couplers up. Actually, I'm gonna wait to do couplers till the end because I'm gonna probably have to move all this around a little bit. So we have our first piece of piping up here. Next up is I'm gonna get the blow-off valve mounted. So ETS sends one of these bolts and nuts for the blow-off valve. So what we're gonna do is get the blow-off valve mounted to the position, and then bolt them down, and we'll continue running all the piping all the way around. The piping goes above the fuel lines. If you go below the fuel lines, it puts way too much pressure on them, and I'm not comfortable with that much pressure being under the fuel lines pulling up on it. There's also the one bracket in the back behind, which we are going to bolt this guy down onto, which I'm just gonna use the ETS one. If they're all gonna be 13s, they're all gonna be 13s. So we have our first piece of piping here that goes up, loops around to the throttle body. Here's the bypass valve or blow-off valve, and then here's the factory intercooler bracket and the mounting tab that ETS provides. That's what I was having trouble with in the back, because this wanted to go down more while this wanted to come up. So we still have to tighten down these two 12 millimeters that hold the intercooler piping down to support it, but I like how it has a support brace, so that way it's not gonna move or fly around or anything. We're gonna get our couplers thrown on the, actually we're not, we're gonna do couplers last. Next piping we're gonna do is going to be the turbo one. So I'm gonna go ahead and tighten down those two bolts, and we're gonna move over to the turbo side. The next piece of piping we're gonna be using is this awkward other bracketed one. So the awkward bracketed side is going to go towards the front of the car. The flip side is going to go towards the back of the car. So we're going to do the same thing we've been doing, and we're going to throw a little bit of oil inside of that coupler just to get it lubed up. And then I have a IAG AOS. So what I'm going to do is slide this piping underneath of the air oil separator lines and then up and around to get it into position. Alright, so this is a little interesting. So to mount that intercooler piping to that bracket, they provide this little hex guy. So what we're going to do with this little hex guy is screw it onto that, and then on the opposite side, screw the bolt into it to mount that piping. Once I get it all set up, we'll run the camera over there so you can see what I'm talking about. But I was sitting there trying to like figure out how to get the piping on there. I'm like, this just doesn't, it don't make sense. All right, to show you what I was talking about. So we have our elbow coming here off of the turbo, our intercooler piping going up. Here's my air oil separator lines, which I need to get the center mount one for the front mount intercooler in the future. But this is what I was talking about. So you have your upper coolant reservoir, your spacer, and then the intercooler piping itself and the bolt. So, I mean, this thing is not going anywhere. I really don't like these lines like that. So I'll probably order the bracket to move it up there, and a blow-off valve maybe, I don't know. But we're making moves on this intercooler piping, man. Shred it. So next we're gonna go from up here down to the intercooler. So we're gonna throw a coupler up there, grab whatever piece of intercooler piping is next, I don't know what it is, and then do this side. On this side we're gonna have to pull off a bracket down here where these bolts are at in order to run this intercooler piping up into the other side. But we're gonna do the passenger side first. So let's get it ran from down here all the way up. I ran into this issue just now. This horn is in the way. So what we're gonna do is we are going to move this up here, higher up in this bracket. So this is just a 12 millimeter with a welded nut on the back side. So we're gonna move it up, and we'll just use a nut and a bolt to hold it in. So I'm gonna get that moved up so we can run this intercooler piping up here. Alright, so just like we've been doing, we got our one coupler on here, and we are ready to throw our next piece of piping on. This is going to, we're gonna want the piping that looks like this weird J piece, and it's going to go up like this. So the curved portion is gonna go on the intercooler, and we're gonna slide this other portion up and through the horn here, or up and through the bumper here. I'm gonna run through it. I'm gonna put the T-bolt clamps on this side, and then we're gonna jump over to the other side. We need to take out the, or at least move the windshield washer reservoir down here, so we can take out this side beam right here. So these are 14s. There's 2 of them up here, and then there's 2 of them back here where the beam ends. There's 3 bolts holding this in. 1 down here, 1 right here, and then there's 1 back there in the far corner. So with that, we're gonna get this beam taken out, so we can run the last piece of intercooler piping from here up to that guy. Freedom! We got that guy off. Sick. So now that we've got that piece off, we can go ahead and run that piece of piping up and through, which is what we'll do now. There we go. We've got to finagle it together. And we're finagled. Voila. We have couplers on the front mount. I also threw my intake back in just because I was already doing couplers, so I figured it's an intake, it's one hose clamp. But the thing is with the ETS, so you can't run an air box, you can't run the bracket that supports the cob intake. Kind of annoying, but hey, it's there, it's not gonna go anywhere. It might move around a little bit, but I might make a bracket for it later on. But everything is tightened down on here. So a couple things that I want to cover, so if you're doing this, you have some understanding, because it took me a while to figure out the, oh man, what I just hit a stool. So screw-on spacer up here, boom. And then there's just a normal spacer there that we have. And then that relocates our washer reservoir out of the way. We also have our top mount intercooler bracket that connects the piping up here. There's the other bracket on this side that has the spacer that supports the piping here. And aside from that, that's the front mount intercooler install, guys. It sucked, I'm gonna be honest. Those clamps, those T-bolt clamps are awful. They're awful to put on. You really got to get them down. The one up here on the turbo isn't too bad, but like this one wouldn't go on. These ones, you can see the ones that didn't want to go on, like right, that one didn't want to go on, but I tightened the living hell out of it. But we got it on there, so overall I think the front mount looks good. That's the front mount. I hope that helps someone. The ones that I was trying to find online were awful. ETS has absolutely no instructions regarding how to do any of this. But we got it on. Stoked about it. I have the boost controller to put on still, so I'm gonna knock that one out. I might not make a video for that one. That was relatively self-explanatory, but I don't know, I might, we'll see. So I'm gonna get my bumper thrown back on. If this helped you, drop a like, give me a subscription. It all helps. It helps me keep making stuff for the Poobaroo and content for you guys that hopefully helps you guys out in the future. But thanks for swinging by, everyone. Peace out.